And we are live for real.
We are
Welcome to
live. We are live. What is
DevKami
alive?
216. So Tristan, for some reason, is not around. Probably will be late. I do not know. We don't. I don't. I'm not their boss. We're not even a proper organization. We're just people that just like to insult other developers, which we
Yeah.
never do for the first place. Interestingly. So my name is Swimming.
My name is Chilean.
Yep. And today I'm supposed to have an aircon. Unfortunately, because I buy a local brand, so it doesn't work. Actually,
It's fine. Sometimes no. It is okay.
I
It's
know,
just
I know. It's
the
not really
customer
local brand.
service. It's the cut. No, I mean it's okay to regard. Sometimes regardless, if there are some quality ones. Sometimes it's just
Correct, correct.
the local brand might be as I mean by correlation that the customer service might not be good or something. The processes are not set up properly.
So yes, but in this case, it could be very well be a fluke because the person at the shop is really concerning in a way. As in the shop
Okay.
that I buy this on, is really concerning. As in, they actually helped me call the manufacturer and all that. So they
Okay. Good.
survived long enough in this area. And they really sell this product.
Good.
So they actually, yeah, I probably had a fluke, so to say lah.
I think
So I was
that is
hoping
what
to,
matters.
yeah, correct.
The after sales service.
So in this case, I was hoping to use the aircon because today is very hot and outside is very loud, but not today. Unfortunately, not today. So that being said, how are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
Cool. I have a lot of drama that I already know, so yeah. So I'm going to open share our site as usual, and also I recommend this book. Okay, I recommend another book on the style of
I think
IT
it's
Factory
better
by
if
Vic.
you Suman, I think it's better if you share it as a good read or on one of the
Correct. I will
tab.
do that later because I just read the first two chapters.
Okay.
I need to write my article and all that, and book reads and all that. This one is about the Palo Alto Research Center, which have a lot of cool people. But let's go through our meat of our show. Do we have meetups? We don't.
What if I'm a vegan? I can't have the meat of the show then.
Oh, you have the protein of the show.
You have
It
the
could be made
broccoli
from
of the
soy.
show.
Yes. So
You
we
have the
don't have
almond milk
anything
of the
happening. We don't have anything until next Monday.
mm,
After next week actually.
that's the
So yeah,
that's
lor.
the status quo.
Yep. So yep, we don't have much happening. PyCon Malaysia still one speaker, if you want to know. The paper call.
We are there having it
Uh,
this year.
they don't give me details. I can ask for it,
No, where's the
but
venue
they have
this year?
the rumor is the rumor is TDDI. That's the rumor. But no evidence. They didn't
The
tell me that
same
because
spot we had two few years before
correct,
COVID.
correct, correct. Because so far it had the best size. It had the best size and cost ratio. The reason I call that is because the reason I say that is because um, PyCon is not always big, interestingly, but it's always so. Yeah, that place have the best size actually for most of the tech event that we don't have that much investment on. JavaScript one is another a whole other beast, but they can really cook it up very fast because everyone will go, and all the company one can easily get whatever they need because they're companies they're willing to throw the money. If they don't throw money, they have relationship with colleges, and they are happy to maintain their relationship. So for college to say. So either way, paper call IO. This is my paper, but this is not what I will show you. How do I show the conference? Oh my goodness! Show me the conference, y'all. View event. So I do not know what other talk is there, but we have also a talk here. Let me increase the size a bit. So yeah, so my last talk is about MicroPython, which I still love. This year I talk about machine learning stuff because it's just one of those things. It's a day job thing. Yeah, so this happening. And we can talk about the news. News. Actually, I put way too many things. I'm going to be a bit selective.
I think
This is
it's
what
okay now.
Yep. I'm going to adjust this, and this is the tofu of the this is the tofu of the show, because that's the vegetarian meat. I don't care. First one. So this is a new one. It's called Per Interpreter Guild. It's very new. Uh,
Nice.
it's not released yet. It will release in 3.12. It's currently on 3.11. So what happened here is you can produce sub interpreter, and each of it will get their own guild, so they can get concurrency. In a way, it's not too different from uh, processors.
Multi
But
in terms of library is it's no different from multi-processing in Python,
correct.
but it's just
But
that it
this
make it available for threading lah, something like that.
correct. So in theory, this should be more lightweight. That's a theory. In practice, I do not know. So with this, with threading, which is more lightweight, so then you can actually do more stuff like database connection and all that.
Faster to
more
start up
easily.
as well. The difference is that
Correct.
multi-processing is a bit slow.
Correct. And what one thing you also need to know is that these are meant to be invisible. What does it mean? You will just use threading without extra code.
Mm.
I believe this is one of the goals. So
Mhm.
as a result, so that you're not supposed to notice any changes other than performance. This
Mm.
is actually one of the
And
goals of this pattern.
it's not it's the changes is it's not too drastic enough that requires change in code.
Correct. If you need changes internally, which is why you need to change the
Mm.
interpreter. But for application level, we are fine. So yeah, this one way they're going to address the issue of guild. So anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on.
Mm.
Anything that I forget? No. So the article that I link actually contains example code, so you should look it up. So the next one. Do you remember Rasa? Okay, so remember the time that I talked about building our own voice assistant?
Mm.
One of the library they use called Rasa. Rasa is a chatbot library. Uh, so at that time, the idea of this Rasa is used in crap. I forget the assistant name. That one is called Home Assistant. It's part of Home Assistant package for you to build Home Assistant. Don't Jarvis. Whereas currently most of our so-called large language model application is mostly processed text. It's one layer. So the tool for you to use text to command your home automation, your switches and all that is Rasa. Rasa is a very is using traditional.
Mm.
It's a software package that use traditional quote unquote traditional models for machine learning. You're talking about Sphinx and all that, right? With large language models, so they're integrated in the application, so you can actually use it to control your. Okay, Rasa itself don't care about home automation. It's just that home automation, the home automation, home assistant tool
I think how
that
you
are
say is how you take the command and make it
correct,
useful or
precisely
interpret it.
correct. So yeah lah, this is one of those things lah. New libraries, interesting to use. Toolkit is mature. So anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on.
Mm.
Actually, let me try something. Q Jacksit here. Oh, there's a reason for that. I need to redirect. I may need to redirect some sound from app to browser if possible. Oh well. Next one. This is interesting for a few reasons.
Kami.
One, we have a few of our members in engineers mind that are not allowed to use language model. Uh, the currently like co-pilots and whatnot, and the reason is they don't want secret to be leaked because OpenAI and Copilot actually do read the internal code. What they don't want is the code to actually leak out in the public. Apple already give disallowed it in their own internal organization. So tools like self-hosted coding assistant is very useful. I do not know how well this work. Okay, I do not know how well this work.
Depends how big the model is.
Correct. This in alpha. This alpha phase, so it's very new. It's self-contained, and one of the things that promise is you can host it yourself lah. But in practice, you really need a pretty fat machine. So I have something I'll show later. That's related, but not after this lah. Because we have this problem, we found a solution, so to say. So yeah, Tabby, it's an API service.
Tabby. Sorry, can't help myself.
Yeah lah. So I'm gonna move on. This is a background.
How do you pronounce this?
I do not know. ATB
Atwops.
SWP.
Atwops.
ATB swap. I don't know. It's not even swap.
Atwops.
So this is a recorder. What they promise is you can use this to record operation. So it's a bit similar to Power Automate. Microsoft have a product called Power Automate. One of the things they promise to do is to automate your desktop operation for scraping, data manipulation, and whatnot. So what this is the Linux Python equivalent. I do not know how well it works. This only works
with Xorg.
Yeah, which is too bad. Variant support coming soon, so things are coming soon. I'm looking forward to this because I don't use it that much. Probably it will be useful. Who knows? So anything to move on? Otherwise, I'm going to go on first. Let's move on. Do you want to go through this or you want to delay this?
We can talk about this.
Yeah, let's go on to this, but I don't think there's not much because
don't go extreme. Just
correct. Precisely.
Pick what is right. Not even microservice, even like let's say clean code. Don't just I need to clean code everything. I need to craft QA everything, including mutation.
Yes, correct. Please don't
stop trying to
do.
Put
it this way. Okay. For some reason, I think of specializations for insects, but that's not the word. It is, but it's correct, but not relevant in this context.
Specialized early is considered harmful.
Yeah. So more like there is time and place for everything. Some things that work with you doesn't work for others, and vice versa. So you need to be careful and find out the reason why. This is why you call yourself an engineer. You're not a code monkey that just copy what people say, right? And this is just a same engineering practice. Like, you want to change architecture, don't go crazy unless you really need it. Consolidate critical parts so that you need to be careful. Then isolate hotspot and all that. So it's very standard, right? Do not most actual implementation. Remove the weird stuff. Then learn to partition our system with modules rather than network, which is just modular. I don't know. It's programming. I don't know. Do people?
Actually not just for this. Is I'm a bit annoyed whenever people complain about this that they go whenever they pick a pattern, they just go extreme into just trying to shoehorn it to everything. Make sure everything is when it's microservice, and make sure everything is microservice until we have issue trying to maintain where things are. Try to have things to orchestrate them.
Correct. So recently what we have here is we moving away from microservice because we realized that nobody knows where the modules are. So yeah, even though we use serverless framework, then we have multiple serverless framework because certain applications are makes sense as one group of things. Then there is three different ways to do things due to reason. Then we realize that we want to group everything together. Suddenly, then we realize that certain thing does not work well together. Actually, the reason is Python. Actually, the application, most of the application have written in JavaScript, and that's fine. It's just that we use one of our exporter project is actually using a Python library because that library can export in most of the supported data annotation format. So we don't need to write new code. So at that one we agree that okay, let's make that a microservice. Okay, let's make that microservice. The more recent one is we are separating out the service because there's a machine learning model, the semantic model, but that thing requires a GPU, so we need to split our service, and we are actually moving away from lambdas or any serverless services, except maintaining that GPU service is actually a bit annoying. We can make it work, but the library is just weird. So, for in that case, the code can be used in a lambda pattern, but uh, AWS does not provide the search product, and there's no reason for that because the models actually each of the using of the SAM model actually eats up a lot of memory. So you got 16 GB of RAM. You can maybe support 5 concurrently. So you better hope that each of them are guaranteed to be done within 10 seconds, right? So if you have 1,000 images, it will queue up really fast. So which is why we're looking for alternative, which we found one. So we found one service that do serverless stuff for GPU. So we're trying it now, and in theory it should be better, right? So that's the big idea behind it. So what's the story? The story is sometimes when you need it, you need it. That's the whole story, really, right? Because there is no point of saying that, yeah, there's only one way to do things. No, this bullshit. I'm sorry. Hi, Tan Hong.
Hi.
So, yeah. So one of the many things I tell people is, if you need it, you need it, and that's about it, really. So don't go crazy. Don't be dogmatic. And more importantly, don't be this guy. Let me find it. It's called Cargo Cult video. Cargo Cult video. La la la. Do you find it? Cargo Cult video. Do I have one? Aha. Yes. Watch on YouTube. In my privacy. Okay. Let me see whether I can. Okay. Chrome output. Can I output to my input? La 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 la. Give me a moment. I try to see whether there is
There is some cargo cup programmers in there.
correct. La 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 la. Don't setting. Here you are. So.
So hurriedly.
Okay, can you hear now?
Yeah, I can hear.
The cult of the cargo planes.
Okay.
Was born in
So. Okay, so there's a moral of the story, right? So notice that what they do is they build the shape of the plane, but they don't get the thing, right? And this is actually the problem of cargo counting. You follow. You don't just follow. You need to follow with reason. In this case, you don't follow the shape. You need to follow more things than the shape. So yeah, don't just follow because just people say so. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. Don't be dogmatic about it. So yeah, that's the story lah. Microservice. Okay, I'm going to move on the next tree. La 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 la. So this is interesting, and this is more useful to us. What this promise is, they use GPT model, local GPT model, to access our database, so to say. It can do like SQL, it can do data processing, it can work multiple LM, but it did a 4090, which I don't have the resource to.
Because you need the VRAM.
Correct, you need the VRAM. And here's one thing I will talk about as well is that I do not know whether as of now, I do not know whether it's worth it to
24. So you need
to
24.
use Nvidia to upgrade to Nvidia now. I mean, for now you don't have a choice, but just that you want to play game, just go to AMD, right? Just go for AMD.
But
Just
what
that
you're talking about? MD is bloody expensive in Malaysia.
really,
Yeah, I mean the
but you
not
get more, but you get
processing.
more RAM. You
No,
get
but
more RAM.
processing for processor it is better value, but the equivalent for the GPU is more expensive. At least the value doesn't doesn't tie.
Yeah, but the thing now is that Nvidia. Okay, so currently as of now, so the reason why I have a bit dilemma is that to do real work, it seems that I have to get something really high end at 4090 and not the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte, because that's the maximum it goes, and 4070 actually goes up to 12 gigabytes only when I last checked. So to do like machine learning work, you need 4090. For game, I'm not so sure because game, if okay, unless I really push the pixel to the max, then yeah, maybe more RAM
Oh,
is
what is
useful.
the API? The equivalent API on AMD? I forgot this.
COSM, Open Compute.
Yeah.
But they do. It's only recently people actually start doing work to make things usable on AMD. But so now, for now, the only reason to use NVIDIA is really the machine learning thing. But even that, you need the big models like the 4090. Sorry, off topic. So either way, machine learning work nowadays require fat models, and you don't get the industrial GPU, industrial compute unit for you to use because those are expensive. So, but those you get 24 gigabytes, so you can put a large language model in it. So this tool is cool because you can use it to generate SQL based on text and all that. You can do QA. It can work with your internet database, and that's to me is important because otherwise, to work with language model, if you use only as ChatGPT as model, yeah, you use whatever knowledge they have, quote unquote knowledge. But to use it, you need to integrate your own thing, and tools like this helps. So yeah, that's about it. Anything to add? If not, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on. IO weight. IO weight is actually a measure in on Linux. So it actually indicates whether the system is IO bound. The whole article here is about why you need to look beyond IO weight in benchmarking of performance. No thanks. Allow cookie because my name is Cookie Monster. So sometimes statistics IO weight can be misleading, right? So so the conclusion here is look at application-specific observability. So that's what they recommend in the end. But so anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on. I think you have a little bit. All right. Okay.
Not really. This
Yeah.
measures.
So
The
just measure what
ND
you need.
is ROCM.
ROCM, yeah, something of compute, open compute, something. So IO weight can be useful, but if you want to measure your application, use application level observation. So use your benchmark, use your BPF and all that. This one, Linux networking. These are basic about wire gap routing and TCP/IP and netting. So here they're actually talking about scenario and how it
And
works in the wire gap.
PyTorch. And off topic a bit, hijacking while I look at PyTorch recently supports since 2021.
Correct. Okay, so let's move away from Linux networking for now. PyTorch always have been aiming to support more type of compute than TensorFlow. TensorFlow they support NVIDIA because that's the default, and only other thing that support is actually Google's own TPUs. So this is the only thing. Whereas PyTorch support more thing. It does not means that things will automatically more things will work on AMD GPU. That's not true because, for
No, I
example,
can't find any recent
like
documentation on it, unfortunately.
correct. I want you to look at stable diffusion on AMD. It's only recent work that there is some work in this, but the performance is not as good as NVIDIA yet. So stable diffusion current model is that. And another one is large language model is guaranteed that do not work with AMD now. For reason I don't understand. Probably because it's not compiled for it lah.
Mm.
But it works for M2, M1 and M2 though, because those things because they can work with the RAM on the system. So on board RAM.
It's a cheat.
Yeah, that's true. Oh well. So
Well,
PyTorch I believe is the future.
we're gonna
because
wait for
a lot more
we're gonna wait for the next gen coming through, so this will become cheaper for us.
correct. So I'm going to show you about stable diffusion, AMD. Yep. You can run this. It's just not great yet. It's possible. It works better for Windows because Windows have DirectML. Meaning, oh yeah, which I need to talk about, but let's move on. So DirectML is actually a Microsoft product. So to build more machine learning things on the Windows thing lah, in Windows environment lah. So it's there, it's getting there. But it's not fast enough lah. So I'm going to go on this one. This one is actually describing about how netting works and how that works with WireGuard and how that works, how to do the routing and all that. It's a lot about tools. If you use Linux long enough, you're probably very familiar with this thing like IP tables, forward and all that, contract, all that. So it's something that you're already very familiar with. So the only extra thing is the WireGuard part long. And I think it's still useful because this is actually one of the things I call lost arts, so to say, because modern developers don't have to do it. So it's just one of those obscure things that people forget about lah.
Mm.
So anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on.
Yep.
Let's move on. Hi Tristan, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I just got out from a work call. So
No problem, man.
it's
Weird
been
things
a
happen.
long day.
Okay. It happens. Everyone happens.
It happens.
Shit happens here.
Mm.
Okay, so if you want to work with large language model, the tool I recommend is LangChain. It's a Python libraries. It have a lot of it have a lot of practices. The tutorial, a lot of practices you can use. You can use it for standard stuff like building a chatbot, not just talking to OpenAI directly. So they do things like caching it. They have tools to optimize your prompt. You can store result in a vector store that they support. They have interface for it. The thing is the tutorial for it is a bit scattered. The documentation is fine, but to do certain tasks you need to hunt around. So Pinecone is actually a provider of vector database. They are not open source. You're free to use, but they're not open source. So you get a single project and all that. And they actually provide a book for you how to do this and this is very cool because as I say, LangChain the library tend to scatter around, and also LangChain is a weird area because people that use LangChain are integrating it in application. But as I say, that the origin of some of this code is from the academia, so they do not necessarily have the saneness abstraction or the saneness update process. It does make things easier. So for example, you can make a chat. It's potentially possible for us to write the whole episode on LangChain, right? Use LangChain. Okay, you can use OpenAI for that, no problem. You can use LangChain, then pump it to something and use it to make a podcast. I don't know. It's possible. So yeah. So I'm going to assume that I'm the only guy that used LangChain before.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I
No, I
But
haven't
if you
used
want
it.
to use large language models, start learning this. It's useful. And also you need to
Mhm.
start using one of these vector store. There's another one. This is the open source one from Facebook. The reason is unlike LangChain gives the ability for you to query the database, query the vectors, so that you can save cost and save result, the result of your query from OpenAI and whatnot, so that you can actually do actual work lah. So for example, to actually send information like books to a language model, you need to first convert it into a vector actually. So when you scrape the
If I'm
vector,
just a consumer for these things, why can't I just use ChatGPT, like log in or use Edge or something
the
like that?
reason is if you use ChatGPT, you need to put the cost is higher, I believe. So yes, you can put a
Mhm.
set of exemplars, then they do the conversion internally. Then those are extra costs and all that. So I believe this uses code because interfacing through. Let me go through that platform. Open. I believe interfacing through embedding is cheaper. I believe doing things like this is cheaper.
Mm.
I could be wrong. It's just one of those. It's just one of those things, lah.
but if
For
you're
like
just the normal
application,
consumer, it might be cheaper in the long run because you
it
don't have
might
to
be
maintain
easier and
anything.
cheaper to do this. Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
No,
Because
plus I don't have the expertise for actually making sure that the model is correct, right? Because now
Mm.
the model is, I have the responsibility for the model as well. So I don't know if I trained it correctly or not. At least
okay,
ChatGPT,
so
I know there are experts that are training it correctly.
correct. So what people actually do is I'm going to open LangChain, like I do multiple times because I really like the libraries. One of the things that you can already do, and it's not a default because but this is the stepping stone. That's the first thing people do. So that you build LangChain on to interface with OpenAI. So in this case, you don't actually care the model as much. It's just that these guys provide. So for example, this is what you typically can already do on OpenAI, right? This is what you can already do. But the so if you just do this, that's already fine. But if you want to interface your documents, now what they would suggest you to do is uh, use. Let me find. So what they would recommend you to use is to actually get okay, bad code. It's just that the documentation is not good. You need to store your documentation as a vector store to be queried and pass things over between language model for them to use. How they do that on OpenAI's chat model, I do not know, but you can do that. It's essentially passing the embeddings from internet system, then from where the query the wherever they store the vector. For now, it could be in memory. That actually does happen. So it passes back and forth to actually generate the output lah. And this so that, as I say, if you just want to do something like this, it's already done. You can already do it. If you want to do more like processing document, they also provide the extra stuff and they tell you how to do it. So it's the extra stuff that is more, as I said, valuable, so to say. Let me find integration. I'm trying to find something that are Vector Store provider here. Let me la, la, la. So a lot of these are they just tell you the libraries. I don't have a good explanation why you could care. It's just that you need to do it. So for example, you instead of passing the whole text, they actually just put it on OpenAI embeddings. That's part of the library, so that OpenAI
Mhm.
can talk to the embeddings to get process the information better. So It exists. I do not know why. I do not have the explanation why. It's just a practice that they use. So I'm going to move on. Uni. Uni is one project that I used to work with in SEMA project. Cool guys. They really care about. They really care. What they do is they actually measure internet access from probes, which is software installed on multiple computer. ClickHouse is actually open source uh, analytics, so to say. They actually collect data and build database. So in a way, it's very similar to what's the thing that we use for the Haze project again?
The Honeywell,
No, the database.
Influx. I forgot what.
Yeah, InfluxDB. So there is something like
Yeah.
that, but they can do a bit more. So
Mhm.
so this one is for you to. So the original use case for this is for you to track clicks and all that in an open source way. But in this, they also use this to check, to query uh, dashboard data and all that. You can use a SQL database, but this allows you to do that.
The one we
faster.
used was Grafana, I think. Right.
Yeah, Grafana is one of those things for visualization. So you can use this for logging. So in a way, it's kind of overlap for InfluxDB actually, but it's one of those tools lah. It's open source, but what they do is they actually had a cloud instance that you can use to pay for it actually. So you pay for them to manage this lah. So it's one of those what you call analytics
Mhm.
database, so to say. So Uni actually is a user. So the reason is Uni actually probe the network quite often, and they need the data stored quite fast, and they need the analysis out as soon as the people can see it, as soon as they receive and process it. So ClickHouse is very awesome for this. So previously they used PostgreSQL, then they use
Mhm.
ClickHouse to actually do the to increase the performance lah. So
Yeah, well, it's not that surprising though, because usually like
uh-huh,
a software that is tuned for a particular use case, so it's very
yeah,
niche towards like that kind of time series data, is going to
correct,
be faster than a general purpose database like
correct,
PostgreSQL, right? So
correct.
it is understandable.
Yes,
But I guess the like what are you leaving on the table, right? If, I
yeah.
guess with that click stream, I forgot what click something, the one Juno thing, that the one that you're just showing, uh,
Yeah.
it's it's uh, it's going to be very
Formatting.
very what they call is very limited towards whatever it is, ClickHouse, where it's very limited to
Correct,
what it does, but it
correct,
does
correct,
it's not, you don't do joins, for example. Well, you're joining.
correct.
Is there a join here? I don't know. You can
Precisely.
group by, but I don't think you can join because that's going to take a lot of like
Correct.
extra
So
optimizations that this is doing.
correct. But in this
And
case,
if it's InfluxDB Lite is it's just SQL Lite, but it's
Mm.
yeah,
not
correct,
actually SQL. Yeah, it doesn't work the
correct,
same as SQL underneath.
correct, precisely. So this one the thing lah. So yes, everything do have a traceback at that level, right? At that case, at that level, they do have that. So just now, Tristan was talking about Juno. This is the thing he's talking about. It's a Redis like database for them to collect data and all that. So
Yeah.
so slightly different, same but different. It's a key value
Yeah,
store.
it has a very particular use case that ClickHouse doesn't probably uh,
Correct.
like handle. But yeah, but the more specialized, usually that's the trend, right? The more specialized the software is, the faster it is, the more efficient it is at doing what it's specialized in, at the cost of
Precisely.
dropping all the other functionalities. Which is again,
Correct.
that's what optimization is about, right? Like dropping
Correct.
what's not required, and then
Mm-hmm.
like optimizing what it is that you want.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah lah.
So I guess
So it's
the caveat here that we're trying to say is
mm-hmm.
that if you're a startup and you don't know what you're doing, don't go
Just
immediately
stick
for
with
ClickHouse or Juno, because these are they were chosen by people who already have like billions of uh, like transactions or like whatever that it
Yeah.
is that they're collecting. They know what they are want to optimize for. They know what it is.
Mhm.
If you're still starting
Uh,
off, you probably don't know what you're doing, and uh, general purpose is probably where you should start until you know you have
Correct.
a proper use case of what you should actually be optimizing for.
Correct. In this case, I may not, I may prefer an SQL database, but in this case, I'm okay with you using no SQL based database as well, JSON based store and
Mm.
all that. I can accept that because you may not know for now at the very early on, even though there's caveat, and that's fine. But use this for you to deliver and not on perceived scalability issues.
Yeah,
You
like,
probably
oh
don't
yeah,
need
it's
it.
going to be fast, but
Yeah,
you only have like
correct,
what, like 15 transactions per hour, and it
correct.
doesn't
So
matter, right?
correct. So yeah lah. In this case, I'm going to move on. So this one, I don't know whether. Okay, it's a bit long. Uh, can you actually listen to this?
No, we don't hear
Yeah.
anything.
Okay. Let me output.
haven't mastered it.
How
Yeah,
about this?
This
we can hear.
operation
Yep.
is called
We can
matrix
hear now.
multiplication.
Matrix multiplication is a very fundamental operation in mathematics that appears in many computations in engineering and in physics.
A matrix is a two-dimensional array of numbers on which you can perform operations like addition and multiplication. Researchers have long sought more efficient ways
Okay.
to
The
multiply
beginning one is
matrices
the
together.
important one.
So if you even just make that a little bit faster, larger problems come into reach, where for now we would say that's too big to be computable in reasonable time.
However, actually finding faster matrix multiplication methods is a huge challenge. But thanks to a new tool, researchers have finally broken a long-standing matrix multiplication record, one that's more than 50 years old. What's their secret weapon? Students of linear algebra are taught a method for multiplying matrices based on a centuries-old algorithm. It goes like this. Multiply
Okay.
elements from the first row of matrix A and the first column of matrix B and add them to get the first element of matrix C. Then repeat for the first row of matrix A and the second column of matrix B and add them for the second element in matrix C, and so on. Multiplying two 2x2 matrices this way takes 8 multiplication steps. Multiplying any two n by n matrices with the standard algorithm takes n cubed steps, which is why applying this method to pairs of larger matrices quickly becomes unwieldy.
If you take a matrix that is twice as big, you have to have a computation time that is 8 times more. So you can imagine if you double a couple of times, then you take 8 times more a couple of times, and you will very soon reach the limits of what a computer can do.
Enter Volker Strassen,
Yep,
a
Strassen
German
algorithm.
mathematician known for his work analyzing algorithms. In 1969, he discovered a new algorithm to multiply 2x2 matrices that requires only 7 multiplication steps. Going from 8 down to 7 multiplications may seem trivial, and the new addition steps look more complicated. But Strassen's algorithm offers dramatic computational savings for larger matrices. That's because when multiplying large matrices, they can be broken down into smaller ones. For example, an 8x8 matrix can reduce to a series of nested 2x2 matrices. So Strassen's savings, applied to these smaller matrix multiplications, propagate over and over. Applying Strassen's to an 8x8 matrix results in a third fewer multiplication steps compared to the standard algorithm. For
So,
very
okay,
large matrices,
I'm
these
gonna stop
savings
for now.
vastly outweigh the
I'm going to stop for now because Strassen algorithm is the interesting thing. But at the end of the video, we have shared on DevKami video, there's a deep learning model that actually go even smaller step than Strassen algorithm, but there's a caveat. That algorithm only works for binary 1 and 0. So they go faster for 1 and 0, and they get like 5 step or something. So this is the point of the whole video, but the introduction is very cool. And Strassen algorithm is what we actually use for NumPy and all that, because that's the optimization you have to deal with when you want to do image processing for image and whatnot. So anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on. Oh, there's a whole secret about how I can send sound from here to from my other browser to this. I use Jack. Jack is an audio system, so Jack can. So I just push up sound from one point to another. So yeah, I'm gonna move on because we're almost the end. So let's be a bit selective. Multiplication, smaller LLM, smaller LLM. Okay, that's about it lah. This is so now you can run on a smaller GPU, single GPU, a big model on a smaller GPU, so that it's optimization. So it does help, and this is useful for you to build your large language model application. It's more feasible. It's still big, but it's more feasible now. So who knows what happened next year, right? So on even next month. So this is the whole paper that do it lah. So they have the whole thing called quantization, which essentially try to optimize the neural network model and for that. So since this is not the area, I'm gonna move on. Windows RTX. What the hell? Okay, I lost this. I'm gonna open this one. This one, basic stuff. This is how you handle. This is how you do dependency composition in whatever language you use. A bit heavy on TypeScript, but if you do it this way, then it's make it easy for you to mock your stuff, because instead of having your things magically created inside the code, if we have this kind of dependency, you pass it inside for, let's say, your database and stuff, then you can write your mock very easy for testing and whatnot.
Why don't we ask ChatGPT to do it for us?
Which is actually one of the articles from ThoughtWorks, because in ThoughtWorks, one of the things they recommend for using ChatGPT for coding is first ask them to write a test, add requirement that, for example, use dependency injection and all that.
Yeah, also because they are so adamant with tests. So.
Correct. So you can do that lah. So this is actually how you do things, and I think it really does make tests easier actually, but it's just not so obvious. Actually.
Yeah, original of the specs, and also for this user story is that supposed to be the non-technical stakeholders that they come up with this, isn't there? That original.
Correct. So yeah, anything to add? This is more of you guys' area.
No,
not really.
Cool. All right. Then this is just code to fill in color lah. Just quick algorithm, and that's about it. But one more important thing that happened last week is actually Windows Dev. Windows, what's the name called? Dev, something.
The home
Windows,
home thing, right?
MS Build. Sorry. MS Build. This is more important thing that I forgot about. MS Build. Conference 2023. A lot of stuff being announced. For example, a lot of machine AI stuff. So you have assistant. You have assistant on Windows now. You have Copilot built into Windows for you to build code.
Cortana? Do you mean by Cortana? I disabled that.
No. Interestingly, in Google I/O, they do not say anything about Google Assistant, and here they do not talk anything about Cortana, but they do talk about Bing GPT. So a lot of AI stuff, so to say. Then let me find the video. I actually have Microsoft developers video for some reason. They're only active around this time lah. Because that's where they talk about the new API and stuff. Where the hell did I put it? Give me a while. I'm actually looking at another tab. I'll show it on another tab so that I can copy the right tab. Microsoft developer. This so that you don't see all the non-necessary stuff. And also the announced, you can see all the announced stuff here, right?
Mm.
Videos. So for example, they have about all the API here, AI Copilot. Then this one, NVIDIA support for Azure and generative AI and stuff. So there is the whole NVIDIA and Windows thing announcement. There's this thing. Here you are. So build large language model on Windows. So this is mostly on deployment probably, but if they want to deploy it on your desktop now, there's another thing lah. So this actually happening.
You know, are you using any of these on your project for the what do you call this, the Citron thing?
No, I did not join the Citron project actually.
Okay.
I forgot to register because I got other thing. Because I actually own swimming.com recently, so I'm trying to build a portfolio site that I do not know what to put.
Okay.
I got distracted by multiple projects, so I want to build a assistant project on OpenAI, and I need to build a portfolio site.
Yeah. So this is you can put this on your portfolio.
Yeah, I can. So this happens. Which is not on our site, and finally, beam.cloud. Final one I want to show you guys. Tristan, before all you come in, I was talking about be pragmatic about code and stuff. So in our company, we're actually moving away from microservices. In fact, we try to not use serverless or use serverless patterns of doing things, right? But we make exception. Two exception. One exception is actually our exporter, because the exporter need to export data annotation format, but we have this Python library that already can export to multiple formats without writing new code. So we adopt that lah. But our other and the reason is our other code is in JavaScript. So the integration is hard lah. So we just make that a separate service. And the second one is actually our segment anything model. The problem is that thing is installed on the GPU EC2 instance. And the problem is that is an API call. But every time we do inference, it takes 500 megabyte of video RAM. And if you add it up, you can support maybe 2 CPU out there. Yeah, if you're not careful on the big model, you can eat up the CPU very fast if you're not careful, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I actually look at this law. It's actually a bit expensive, so we're evaluating it. So this what this is. Beam is actually a AP serverless, a GPU serverless service that produce GPU. So what that provide is actually two things. One, a deployment environment, and second is a working environment. What do I mean by that? They have a way that is, you can imagine they have a way for them to run Python code, to run your thing that require GPU on their service and produce things out. As if it's almost like SSH lah, but it's not SSH for some reason. I don't know what they call it. So the deployment part is what we use because we do generate service, but you can run a service down there to do stuff. So yeah, actually this is the part that I didn't show you the rest of the guys actually. And the reason I'm using this is because the EC2 instance is going to get complicated really fast, because I need to set up if I to set up an EC2 instance, then I need to set up 2 instances of GPU instance.
Yeah, becomes expensive.
EC2 instance, it's not too bad, but then I need to add a load balancer, then I need to add SSH.
Or complicated.
I also run multiple stuff. I also run multiple projects. So yeah, I'm the only sysadmin down there. Yeah. So having this is helpful. It's helpful actually. So because for other project, even though it's manually deployed, but JavaScript-based tools is very familiar, right? And tools are set up anyway, so it's not a problem. So yeah, this is actually what happened. So 5 more minutes. Anything else?
So speaking, I was asking you about the what they call this, the your project, right? So I just got this email from Citron.
Mhm.
So it looks like
Correct.
it's coming. It's arriving. So if I zoom in, what was
Yep.
ordered? So yeah, so the Nano RP 2040. I think it's this one, right?
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
that large, so it's actually good.
Yeah, it's very
But
small.
so this one I don't know if I can use though. It's small. It's the same size as a Pi Pico. Sorry, a Pi
Yep.
RP 2040,
Yep.
with the like the actual uh not just the chip but the actual board, right? But I can't
Correct.
use it because this one doesn't have Wi-Fi. But it's small, so I can still work with it. But what I'm interested in is the Pi Pico Mini. So this one has the
Yep.
W. So this should be the W,
Ah.
but I'll check. But this one has Wi-Fi. The
Correct.
Sonoff is coming as later, so I
Yep.
will
Yep.
be flashing test motor for that. So I have like the wires and all of these things. And of course, this one is the additional one. This is a
Pump, right?
submersible. Sorry, it's just it's a pump, water pump that
Yeah.
moves water around. Remember, so I already have the what they call this, the one wire thermometer,
Correct. Correct.
thermocouple,
Correct.
so that should measure the temperature. Python already, MicroPython already has the libraries for it with
Before go
Python.
on,
Yeah,
actually asking what kind of project it would be for.
yeah, it's a PID controlled thermostat for sous vide. So what's going
So
to
it's a way
happen?
to automate the sous vide.
Yeah, it's a DIY thing. So this one is the pump is to move the water around so that it doesn't, because
Mm-hmm.
it what I'm using is a pot, like a hot pot that just turns on, and the way I control the whether it's on or off is a sawn off. So I think you've heard of a sawn off, right? When it comes, I'll next week I'll show it, but it's going to be it's Wi-Fi controlled using MQTT, or I can just do a post request. I'll figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns on and off, and then I'll probably be using the thermocouple to measure the actual temperature inside the water, and
Yep.
this pump will move the water around so that there's no hot spots, so that it just I make sure that the temperature I'm measuring is the average temperature of the water inside the hot pot. And then, of course,
Right.
yeah, you turn on or off the sawn off depending on the temperature. If it increases a particular set percentage, sorry, a set temperature, then you turn it off. If it falls below that temperature, you turn it on. And then a PID controller, just make sure that you don't oscillate between the two so much, because otherwise you'll be turning on or off the relay, right? Just uh, a few what they call this Celsius uh, difference,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just going to be like tic, 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 and then you'll destroy your relay because of that,
Yep.
because you're just like
Precisely.
oscillating on those. So you want to like make sure that um, you're not very if it's just an if else, it's going to be a problem.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Inside it is
well,
an iron.
I mean, you need heat to cook food, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Correct.
going to be a problem.
Correct.
And you're not doing
So
hot pot. So the hot pot is usually at like more than 80, 90 degrees, right? But sous
yep.
vide is about like 50, 60. You really just want to kill the
Ooh.
bacteria. But
Right.
for this is usually used for steaks. You want to kill the bacteria on the beef, but you don't want to caramelize the fat so much, and you don't want to you want to do some changes in the protein structure, but don't want to do it well done in terms of steak, right? So it's going to be like just a good temperature, and you maintain it for like hours, because you're not really cooking beyond it, so you're not changing
Yep.
the molecular structure of the proteins
Yep.
of the skin, of the muscle fibers, and all of these things. Then of course after that,
Mm-hmm.
well, you're doing it inside a plastic bag though, so you're not
Mm-hmm.
actually cooking it inside the water. Usually
Mm-hmm.
you'll put in some marinade and some sauces inside. And so while you're cooking it inside that temperature, the marinade, the sauces, the flavors seep into the meat. Then after you're done, you sear it, and then that's it. That's your steak, like almost perfectly done, properly cooked steak without much problems, hassles, figuring out how hot should your pan be, and then how long should you heat it on the pan. So this is like very lenient with regard to the steaks. So it's a DIY sous vide, and it's a project by that uses Pi Pico. What am I using here? Pi
Pico
Pico
W.
Mini. Maker Pi
Mini, right.
Pico Mini W or
Okay.
whatever. Yeah.
Wait, that thing have Wi-Fi. I don't remember that it's on the spec though. Oh well.
There's a Pico W. So they released it like I think a year ago. Originally there's just a Pico, and then
Right.
there's a Pico W. And
Yeah.
the news is that the chip actually supports Bluetooth, but they're having a problem with the software because this is Raspberry Pi, right? They want to open source whatever firmware they're writing, but there's a problem with the licensing. And so they want to make sure that the licenses are correct when they activate the Bluetooth. Because it is
Yeah.
Bluetooth capable. You have Wi-Fi and you have Bluetooth capability, but there's no software, there's no SDK. I mean, there's an SDK, but there's no official firmware for the Bluetooth device inside the chip.
Correct. That part of the SDK is actually on the STM side. It's not on the Raspberry Pi side. So they may not expose that library for the first place.
Yeah, but
So with that
yeah,
said, this is a fun project.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
The news is that they want to make sure that they can get the licenses so that you can actually use Bluetooth. Because if you can use Bluetooth, this is a very, very big contender for the ESP32. Like
Correct. It is.
people will just use
ESP
this instead of the ESP32.
Correct. But ESP32 nowadays there's a S3, which they claim can actually they can do that apparently. They can do machine learning stuff. A small model, the 10 ML models, still can do those, which I'm actually looking forward to as well. But actually, the Raspberry RP2040 can do tiny ML. It's just that because of the wireless, it kind of being outshined until recently, actually.
Yeah, so
Then when
looking
they
forward to
release
those
it, supply chain
developments.
issue.
Yeah.
So with that said, I want to see the project next week, whenever that comes out. And me, I want to finish my portfolio site. But I'm hoping that the manufacturer actually fix my aircon. Because the aircon come today, but the coolant leaked. So the installer gave up because he found no leaks on all the pipes. So it's the what's the unit outside BTU? The BTU issue. So he just sent it to call the manufacturer to handle it. But it's gonna kill me soon. Oh well. With that said, all right. If there's nothing else, I need to sleep because tomorrow is office day. So thanks for listening. And maybe I will I'll show you guys how do I type sound from one side to another side on Linux. So yeah, thanks for listening. Good night.
Okay.
And
Bye.
bye.
See you next
Yes.
week.